All right, we're going to continue to swipe left on these romance features here, because this time we stopped on two little romance comedy dramas. We're talking movies. We're talking 1992's The Cutting Edge and 1990's Pretty Woman. Chris? Boop-ick.
You know, Scott, I appreciate this whole seduction thing you've got going on here, but let me give you a tip. I'm a sure thing.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of How'd You Like That Movie? We're going to continue to romp through the rom-coms with Pretty Woman and The Cutting Edge. Scott, take us away.
All right, I picked The Cutting Edge because I thought it was
Because it had a toe pick in it? You toe picked it?
Seriously,
No?
It's like what, 30 seconds in and you're already overtaking? Like you can't even wait.
It's like, and Scott, take it away. And back to Chris. Okay.
And camera one, camera two, camera one, back to Chris. All right. Yeah, I just thought it was apropos, with the Olympics going on.
Look at you with the fucking word of the day calendar.
Yeah, I actually have it right here. So yeah, I remember this movie when it came out, and I remember liking it. I'll give it this, right? Like, this film surely did show what it's like to be an Olympic athlete
In the city of Hamilton.
And going to the Olympics. And you're just there to pretty much fuck every other athlete that's there.
And occasionally they throw you some medals, possibly.
Right. Well, isn't that the thing? Like, the most condoms are always distributed during Olympics in Olympic Village.
Yeah, of course, man. I mean, like, if you think about it, most Olympic athletes are like, late teens, early 20s. Like, they're young adults, and they are literally the fittest people, hardest working people on the planet. So, like, why wouldn't they be banging? You know what I mean? I'd like to go to the Olympics of banging with Olympic athletes.
So what you're saying is you missed your calling.
Right? Yeah, I mean, I'm past my prime now, so.
Well, you missed your calling a long time ago.
This is true.
But yeah, like, on second viewing, or probably third viewing, it was hard for me to continue to watch this. I almost pulled the U.
Yeah,
and had to break it up almost.
You almost pulled out.
Yeah, almost. But 3 kids in,
I'm like, kids later, you still haven't quite mastered that yet.
Yeah. But yeah, so I was just like, no, I'm gonna go through it, right? And then it was funny because I'm also gonna do something that I never do. And I'm going to pull a quote that I found on this film from Candace Russell from the South Florida Sun Sentinel. And she put, with interesting camera angles that show that the speed and confusion of performance, the film makes a refreshing point about the merit of victory. And I would like to say to Candace, no. Because the whole interesting camera angles, like when you watched this as well, did you?
I watched half of it, and then I just was like, no, this isn't even my movie. I am not subjecting myself to this awfulness. Yeah,
when they do like they're now figure skating, and we're going to do these tight close-ups and change the camera grade to, I think, like 8 grain. Like I think they just literally tapped the VHS, like those old camcorders, tapped the
nice
VHS, and just were shaking around. They're like, fuck, we need to get the shaky cam on here. Like, that shit was throwing me off like crazy. And all I thought about was, this is probably the best way that they can film these actors who actually don't know how to figure skate
or act.
into making it look like they actually do. Right.
So you think, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go.
Okay. So this actual film aside, I mean, I think they went on and made like what 4 or 5 fucking sequels, including like their kid that grows up and tries to go to the Olympics too. Like,
Can be yellow if they're using late season apples. And of course, in Canada, the whole thing's flip flop.
I mean,
no, well, from my understanding, there's 3, I think, direct to DVD movies and like 1 TV movie that like took this franchise, if you want to call that, out. But these, like DB Sweeney and Maura Kelly, have never returned, right? They've never come back to this film at all.
do they actually have any other acting credits? I know, didn't Moira do like 1 Tree Hill or 1 Tree Hill or whatever the hell it was called?
Yeah, well, I found an interesting bit of trivia.
Oh, go.
Do you know that she was originally cast as Gina Davis's sister in
A League of
Their Own?
Really?
But she got hurt filming this film, so she couldn't do it. And then you got Lori Petty.
Oh shit! Imagine that. Okay, you get hurt making this fucking atrocious film, and then you don't get to be in a really amazing film with an all-star cast, A League of Their Own. You know what I mean? Like, that sucks. That fucking sucks, man.
This is bullshit.
But the other thing that I think is funny, like when you go on Rotten Tomatoes, like this has a 57 for critics with only 35 reviews, but they have 25,000 reviews for the audience, and it's at 76. Like, the audience loves this film.
Which, and again, which I want to bring up the fact that, so Pretty Woman, which is a massive film, I think still to this day it is the highest rom-com. It's either that or My Big Fat Greek Wedding. It is like, you know, quoted, you know, that whole scene. It's talked about in other movies about, you know, that shopping scene where they won't let her shop, you know, big mistake, huge, big, you know. It only has a 66 from the critics. It has a so Pretty Woman has a 68% Rotten Tomatoes score, which is less than The Cutting Edge, but it made $464 million at the box office. So I don't know if it's just because like older movies, some people don't go back and like now, like, you know, the latest Spider-Man, it gets the shit reviewed out of it on Rotten Tomatoes. It just makes me wonder if like people haven't gone back and like re-reviewed these films, because I'm like, it's one of the places where I'm actually in kind of the world where you're at, where it's like not great critics, not great like Rotten Tomatoes audience scores, but somehow made like $500 million on a $14 million budget. Man, that is the type of fucking return on investment I fucking want for a movie.
You're talking about your movie, right? Not my movie.
Pretty Woman, yeah. I couldn't find the budget for yours. I think it made like what, $50,000 at the box office or something like that.
This was one of those that got it got found on you know, Columbia House memberships when they when you had to buy a movie to like fill your membership quota, and this movie was $1.99. I only know that because that's how you ended up with it. but I'll say, in terms of scope, like the one thing I did appreciate, even though this is one of the rare films, and I'm going to say rare films because I can't think of any others, that it's all from the male's perspective, right? Yes. This is the rom-com from the male side, right? So that I will give it. And the fact that, you know, in terms of plot and story, I also did appreciate that, you know, it's kind of like the joke on here in this movie that, you know, their relationship is foreplay, because you don't get to, you know, the lovey-dovey stuff, like the typical rom-com formula where, you know, they meet, don't like each other, they fall in love, and then, you know, they have that little bit, and then, you know, then they
get paid $3,000 and
yeah, and then then they fall apart, and then they come back at the end. With this one, it's all like, you get the building of their relationship from, you know, not liking each other to working together to respecting each other, and to the end where realizing that, you know, they're together, right? That they love each other. And you know, you got to remember
They're
that.
a gold medal match made in
Did they
heaven.
win gold though? Did they? You don't, you never see their scores. You never see their
So
scores.
I actually, and you know, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I actually think that you could take this premise and actually do a decent film with it. I feel like one of the problems. with
Yeah,
this
it was
film
called
too-
Blades of Glory with
I was just
Ferrell
gonna.
and
I was just gonna say that the problem with this film is it tries to take itself almost too serious. It's like you either need to be serious, like a true dramedy, which I think actually Pretty Woman falls into. It's more of a dramedy, or you lean into the comedy, right? Like Blades of Glory, the farce, right? To like make it ridiculous, but you still need a decent script that has like good jokes. You know what I mean? You can actually, you know, the shitty camera work and stuff like that. That you can get away with that with this kind of film. Like think of like Police Academy, you know, I mean the original Police Academy. I mean, like it's not crazy camera work. It's funny. It's super farcical. Like they lean right into the comedy and it works. And it's like someone needed to take this script and go, okay, what movie are we trying to make here? And I've actually been having this conversation with another screenwriter lately, just about her, this kind of, I don't know, it's not a dramedy. Like, I'm like, what direction do you want this script to go? Because it's got darker elements and you can have a dark comedy, but the way it's written right now, it's like you're trying to straddle. And so you're doing neither job correctly. You know what I mean?
yeah, I hear what you're
Free
saying.
tips from Chris Langford on how to make a movie.
Yeah, I'm just going to talk over that because no one needs those clips. But yeah, like I think this is one where, in terms of romantic comedies, usually you're looking at the teen side, right? Teen, young adults. And I think with this one, it is like the comedy is rare, right? Like I would say this one's more like a drama than a comedy, right? Like they use the comedy a little bit to kind of liven the mood. And I think you needed that because then like Maura Kelly's character would have been completely unlikable, right? So you had to have that kind of laugh, like able to laugh at her. And our producer just put in that the Cutting Edge had a budget of 3 million and a box office of 25. So it made
not bad, actually. Not bad at all
for a return on investment. Yeah, but that's a lot of $1.99 fucking Columbia houses, though.
I'm not going to ask you how many that is.
No, I wouldn't know either. Math is not my strong point.
Well, it should be half of 25. So
yeah, like in terms of, I think an older audience would appreciate it only because it is it is more, how would I put it, not immature but more like, yeah, it's more like a mature drama kind of thing. Like it's a more realistic in terms of, you know, it's not soulmates coming together or, you know, anything like that. It's more like how most people actually do find their significant others, right? Just given the situation that they meet in.
Okay. So now I'm going to just tell everybody this movie's fucking awful. Do not waste your time watching it. If you've listened to this podcast, you know enough and you've heard enough about this movie. And yeah, now we're going to move on to a fucking film that's actually enjoyable and well done. 1990s Pretty Woman. I mean, I don't know if there's anyone out there in the internet world that has not heard of Pretty Woman, you know, the big Richard Gere and Julia Roberts film, directed by Gary Marshall, who, I mean, this guy was a fucking player in the world of like TV and filming. I mean, he's the creator of Happy Days, Mork and Mindy, and Laverne and Shirley. And again, he worked on tons and tons of other TV work. Then he also directed Beaches, Overboard. Like, he's solid, man. So I think he was a great director for this film. I'm sure what's that show that we reference all the time? Is it The Movies That Made Us? Is that where they talk about Pretty Woman?
Yeah. And I mentioned it last week, but there was one thing about Cutting Edge. You kind of like overtook this. I wanted to say,
Okay.
I had a Chris Can moment.
Con,
Like the Canadian,
Con, yeah.
yeah, CanCon. The Russian figure skaters that just show up in the last 15 minutes as now like the pair to beat
Yeah.
were actually played by real life Canadian figure skaters Christine Ho and Doug Leray, who finished in 8th in the Calgary Olympics and in 9th in these French Olympics.
Well, congratulations. It's also shot in fucking Hamilton, primarily. So that's also a big piece of Canadian content. Steel Town. Holy Mackinac.
You can continue taking over.
Thank you. So yeah, Pretty Woman got a BAFTA nod for Best Picture. Julia Roberts got nominated for Best Supporting Actress. I'm gonna have to eat some words that I made last time when I was like talking about how shit Julia Roberts is. So she got her Oscar win, obviously, for Erin Brockovich, but she has 4 Oscar nominations for acting. Plus, she's got a BAFTA win and 3 nods. So, Julia, I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been talking shit about you. You're still not my favorite actor, but I forgot that she got nominated for Steel Magnolias.
Wait, did you just say you're still not my favorite actor?
Yeah.
You're apology.
That's a Chris Langford story, not sorry. So this the basic story is, if you don't know it, it's typical, right? Man goes to the Hollywood Boulevard, he finds Hooker, he pays Hooker money, and in the end he decides to keep Hooker, because isn't the whole point of paying a hooker so that you can give them back when you're done? Like, isn't that kind of how that exchange is supposed to work?
I wouldn't know, but
yeah, okay. Wink,
I wouldn't.
Wink, wink.
I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't know. But
so again, they do a really good job of covering this on Movies That Made Us, I think in the 2nd season or 3rd season. But it's written by scriptwriter J.F. Lawton, who also did Under Siege, and a film I'm definitely going to look up called Cannonball Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death, which stars Bill Maher and Shannon Tweed, and is basically like a parody of like B-movie jungle films plus Apocalypse Now, and obviously like Heart of Darkness, which is what it's based off. So I'm like, I 100% want to watch that fucking movie. It sounds amazing. And it was supposed to be much darker, and there's a part of me that really wants to see the darker version, where Vivian has like a drug problem, and in the end he fucking drops her off. Because it's funny, there's that line where she's like, I'm gonna be so good to you, baby, you're not gonna want to get rid of me. And he's basically like, for $3,000 a week, oh, I'll be totally fine getting rid of you. You know what I mean? So I kind of want to see the version that's like dark and gritty, almost like a noir, shot in noir, or shot in neon noir would actually be fucking awesome. And where he just like fucking boots her out of the fucking limo at the end, and is like, peace, keep your STIs.
Well, yeah, like in the Movie That Made Us, yeah, they discuss it like in terms of the original ending was actually he does drop her off, and then she takes her friend to Disneyland with the money.
Yeah,
the friend always wanted to go.
I'm going to Disney World.
And then, do you know why that in that episode they discuss it, but the idea why it got changed?
Well, I mean, it was being made by Disney, so yeah. Prostitutes in Disneyland, as much as I'm sure that's a thing, it's definitely on Pornhub. I'm pretty sure that, was it Eisner at the time, was like, yeah, we're not doing this. We're not having prostitutes go to Disneyland. It's funny because I think about that final master is what it would like. I picture almost the scene from The Graduate, which is also taken in the back of a bus. You know what I mean? I kind of picture like almost go like shot for shot and make that final scene as the bus is like pulling out or whatever, and shoot it just the same way as The Graduate is shot, kind of like an homage to another piece of cinematic history. So yeah, when I go and make 3,000, that'll be the end.
There you go.
2,000.
3,000.
Done.
Holy shit!
it's interesting because to think of anybody other than Julia Roberts and Richard Gere in this, it's like, so as I know you're aware of this, Scott, like neither one of them were the original people that were wanted for this film. Like, just so for Richard Gere's character Edward, there was like on that list are Christopher Reeves, Daniel Day-Lewis, Kevin Kline, Denzel Washington. Al Pacino and Burt Reynolds both turned it down. Like Al Pacino actually was doing some chemistry reads with Julia Roberts. And then Julia Roberts was like, not even on the list of people they wanted. Like they wanted Karen Allen, Molly Ringwald, Meg Ryan, Mary Steinberg, Diane Lane. Like, again, like none of these people, I mean, Molly Ringwald was like, she didn't like the association with like prostitutes. And then there was some other, you know, bigger names at the time, like Winona Ryder and stuff that they were just thought of as too young. And like, so the only people in that list that I would probably, I think a Denzel Washington version would have been interesting, especially in that time period, like 1990, doing like interracial. I mean, I think that would have been a really bold statement. But I mean, I almost think you'd want to go the grittier route casting him, because right now you've got like two beautiful like white people in like a white people movie that ends on like a white people happy ending, you know what I mean? Where I think Denzel Washington would have been a really interesting casting choice to give it like gravitas if you went with that kind of grittier storyline.
Sure. Right, but I think what was done, it's the same thing, like thinking of,
did you rewatch it? Did you watch it for the show?
Yeah, I finished it last night. Just think about what the Matrix would have been without Keanu, right? And it was Will Smith. Now,
thank God it wasn't Will Smith.
Come on, man.
Will Smith doesn't have the chops, man. Anyway.
Okay. But so the thing, rewatching it, right? And this was my first time rewatching it in like years. I did not realize how much he actually, like how much times they actually had intercourse in that movie. Like in my head, I just remember it was like the part where they fall in love, right? And it's on top of the piano.
Yes.
But then I'm like, rewatching it, I'm like, oh, she gave him a blowy on the first night. I'm like, oh, and then they fucked on the second night. I'm like, oh, and the third time was the piano. I'm like, holy shit. Right. Yeah,
and I mean, she is playing a prostitute who's being paid. So it's got so many great moments. Honestly, I find this movie really cute. I mean, I like when she's like singing in the tub to Prince. That piano shot is great. When he first comes in, he sees her all like dressed up, her in the red dress. Yeah, obviously like that shopping scene is great. Like, you know, both like when he's like, we're going to be spending an obscene amount of money in here, so we just want to be totally taken care of. Like, it's just, it's fun.
Oh, it's
like,
sucked up to, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and he starts sucking up to Richard Gere, and he's like, not me, her. Like, yeah, because in the piano scene, she's like, oh, she like crosses her legs and she's naked except for the tie. No, actually, that's in the hotel room, isn't it?
That's in the hotel room. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
The piano scene was she was wearing the bathrobe and then the lingerie underneath or whatever.
That's right.
And then just imagine having that amount of money that you're like, listen, everybody get out of the fucking dining room. But not only like
very special guest, and we
very not only
like family.
Having the amount of money that you're like, listen, I'm gonna shut down this dining room just playing on the piano, and all you fuckers are just gonna stand here, work, and listen to me. And then when she comes in, he's like, yeah, everybody get the fuck out.
Get the fuck out.
Like, what would have made that scene like 100 times better? It was while it was like panning out. No. While the camera's panning out and he's doing the most awkward like eating her out scene where he's eating out her belly button for some reason.
Maybe he learned from her from Wiseau, Tommy Wiseau.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Yeah, but it was the door of the dining room and just watching all the workers just sitting there watching, because in real life 100%.
You mean like
every single one of the
door frame and just seeing everybody like kind of looking in or whatever.
Yeah, being like, what is this guy packing? Right.
I mean, It's fun. Did you watch it just by yourself, or did you watch it with your kids or your wife?
I don't know. I didn't watch it with my kids. I watched the last like 45 minutes with my wife. She like the first bit, she fell asleep on the couch, right? Typical married watching a movie kind of thing, right? One of us passes out on the couch. But
And then you cried at the end. You were like, "Oh, that's so romantic."
not really. I don't think this movie, like the best line in this movie is, and I'm having a brain fart, but who's her friend prostitute?
Oh, Kit. I can't remember the actor's name, but like Kit
Yeah.
or something like that. Yeah.
When she was like, "Hey, Grandpa, 45 or 50 for you, 75, and your wife can watch."
So my quote this week is from the Hollywood Reporter, Henry Sheenan. The movie displays an almost preternatural disregard for women's feelings. Call it Pygmalion, with a heavy accent on the first syllable. But the comedy is so slickly delivered that the audience may be content with chuckling over its polished surface. So for those of you that don't know, well, Pygmalion is a Greek story of a artist that falls in love with a marble statue and then, wishes for it to come to life. But more in more recent times, it's
they made that movie. It's called Mannequin with what's her name, Kim Cattrall. There's a little can moment there.
Also true, but typically when referring to Pygmalion, the reference is the play by George Bernard Shaw, where in the play, a woman with like kind of like a West End or East End British accent is brought into upper society by just like taking the like edges off her accent and giving her a more posh accent and being able to like kind of live in a different world. Yeah, I mean, I guess this is sort of like Pygmalion in the sense that like once you doll her up, she's great. She is kind of a classy bitch when she's at the polo field and stuff like that. Yeah, I thought it was good. I highly like. It's a rom-com. Like I can't really talk about like cinematography or anything. It's the same as the last time. I think it's a cute script. I think it was well written. I think it was well directed. It's a perfectly constructed little rom-com, and I think that like almost $500 million that it made is kind of a testament to that.
Good soup.
And you don't normally hear me using like budget numbers and money numbers to
It's only when you want to boost your movies. Right? If I say anything about my movies that you don't like, you're like, fuck. You're like, if you take a big shit and there's a lot of flies in it, does it really make that shit any different than the small shit?
That is not at all how that quote goes, but I almost like that one better. If you take a big shit and there's a little shit and the flies go to all the shit, it's all just shit.
It's just still just shit.
Mic drop. Anyway, that's all I got, man.
That's my Oscar speech right there. And that is our wrap for the day. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. Tell your friends. If you want to get a hold of us, reach us at the www.howdyoulikethatmovie.com. Like, I'm 100% in awe that you did not mention Quentin Tarantino or anything in this episode.
Oh my god, I thought you were going to pull out some stuff, be like, do you know that there's a Quentin Tarantino director's cut of Pretty Woman? Or of whatever your shitty film was called.
Cutting Edge. Yeah, I made it up in my head. I'm like, it's Cutting Edge, but then with the Tonya Harding story. But he literally hires the Vega brothers, and that's when you finally get the Vega brother movie.
And it turns out that one of the Vega brothers is actually a hockey player.
It's the one that took out his eye.
Production by Rod Shaver, Vader Monkey Productions.